Welcome to his short word channel.
You shall indeed know the truth, and it shall set you free.
And we create nothing but the truth.
And you can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth.
So kindly hit that subscribe button and embrace the truth.
In the first service, we began to navigate some parameters. If you were not here, get the material sharp. Zikolataya. I say Zikolataya. We began to look at the temple. We've been dealing with the temple theology. And we began to see that the will of God was not for man to worship in a physical building. But when Moses communicated the will of God, which is God inhabiting man, the children of Israel did not believe. Hence, Moses gave them a project to work hard and build a sample of what he gave them that they rejected. Peradventure, by building that sample, the message may sink in. Hebrews chapter 8 verse 5. Hebrews chapter 8 verse 5. Read for me.
Who serve unto the example and
Take note
shadow.
of the word example. Take note of the word shadow. Example and shadow means darkness. The word skia, S-K-I-A, darkness of
heavenly things.
So, what Moses saw was heavenly things. The word heavenly is the word euphorenios. It means immaterial. God showed Moses immaterial realities. Moses spoke it, Israel did not receive it. So he got them to construct a building for 46 years. Peradventure, in the process of building, the message will sink in. Read for me, girl.
As Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle, for see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount.
All things according to the pattern showed to thee on the mount. So he saw something on the mountain that he was communicating in shadows to the audience of Israel. I've told you before that the book of Genesis is the message of Moses to the children of Israel in captivity about the promise of God. So Genesis is the promise of God of an exodus, the promise of God of deliverance. And we saw where God gave the promise to Abraham, and God swore an oath by himself that by two immutable things it's impossible for God to lie. What are the two immutable things? The promise, epangelia, and the oath that he swore. So by that promise and the oath which he swore, God cannot lie. All right? So which means when God promises, God does not promise based on your resources. He promises based on his own resources. That's why it's a self-fulfilling promise. It's not a promise predicated on a man. It's a promise predicated on his resources. Remember that the will of God is not a physical temple. The will of God is man. God wants to live in a man. God wants to inhabit man. God wants to indwell man. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 14, 1 Corinthians 6:14. Sorry, 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 14. Read for me, girl. 2 Corinthians 6:14.
Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?
Next verse.
And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel?
So remember, he's telling you the believer is righteous, the unbeliever is unrighteous. The believer is Christ, the unbeliever is Belial. The believer is one who believes, the unbeliever is an infidel. Read for me, next verse.
And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols?
The believer is the temple of God, the unbeliever is in idols.
For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said.
God has said,
I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people.
Look at the preposition. I will dwell in them. Not in a physical house. In them, and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. That has been the plan from the beginning. I will dwell in them. I will live in them. I will walk in them. God wants to be domiciled in the born again man. That's been the plan. That's been the plan. Now, Moses communicating these realities to Israel had to employ the use of parables. Parables. Look at Psalm 78 verse 2. Psalm 78 verse number 2.
I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old.
So things that were spoken of old were dark sayings. The word chida. Chida. It means illustrations or parables. So the communications of the Old Testament will be in types and shadows and in parables, illustrations, using natural things to communicate spiritual realities, using physical objects to communicate spiritual realities. But today, we don't use parables, comparing spiritual with spiritual. We speak in spiritual sense. How spiritual? The words I speak to you, they are spirit and they are life. So today we use words to speak God's language. But in the Old Testament and in the four Gospels, parables, physical illustration, pictures had to be painted to draw out a lesson. And a parable is a mode of communication for people with a low IQ that has facts, fictions, and all you take out of a parable is the lesson. So if the tabernacle of Moses was a parable, it means you shouldn't be carried away with the physical building and the activities, but look for the lesson. That the temple was supposed to be God's dwelling, which means that one day God will dwell in a man as his temple, which became a reality in the resurrection. Am I communicating? Now look at the book of Matthew chapter 13 verse 13. Matthew, please, I beg of you, pay attention. Read for me.
Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand.
So if you observe, they are the ones that are not seeing, they are the ones that are not hearing, they are the ones that are not understanding. It is not God keeping it from them. Next verse.
And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see and shall not perceive.
Next verse.
For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed.
Their eyes they have closed. Yes.
Lest at any time they should see with their ears and hear with their ears, and should understand with their hearts, and should be converted, and I should heal them.
Next verse.
But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear.
17.
For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them.
18.
Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower.
So he now begins to give them parables. So why will Jesus use parables for these people? Matthew 13:34. Matthew chapter 13 verse number 34.
All these things spake Jesus unto the multitude in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them.
So that means all the time Jesus spoke in the four gospels, what did he employ? Parables. For without a parable spake he not unto them. Read verse 35 for me now. 35.
That it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world.
So parables will be used to communicate things kept secret from the foundation of the world. Jesus will employ the use of parables. Why? Because the people have closed their eyes. Because the people have refused to see and they have refused to hear. So he will employ the use of parables, because now they have made themselves a people with a low IQ. Is that not what Jesus meant? In the book of Matthew chapter 19, 19 verse 7. Matthew 19 verse 7.
They say unto him, Why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away?
Next verse.
He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so.
Moses, which will be Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, it was not so. So that means there was a mode that Moses used in communicating, because these people had hardness of heart. What is hardness of heart? Look at how Moses described these people who came out of Egypt. Deuteronomy 32:20. Deuteronomy 32 verse number 20.
And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith.
They are children in whom is no faith. They refuse to believe the gospel. Hence, the mode of communication, which will be temple, Ark of Noah, and all the different modes in the Old Testament, all parables, illustrations, shadows, to communicate spiritual truth about the plan of God concerning them.